Your ability to embrace problems is directly related to developing the attitude of a continuous learner. Due to time constraints, we can't properly discuss the concept of this attitude of a continuous learner. Yet I think the exercise below will help you in its development. When you embrace the process and attitude of a continuous learner in your life, you allow yourself to achieve what you once thought you could not do. So let's take a look at this exercise on becoming a continuous learner. And what I think I'm going to do is to get this on a PDF, and whenever we send out the link for the replay of this video, once you've got it right, you'll be able to download this exercise and go through it at your leisure. But I'd like to give you a run through it quickly because there's some terms that you may or may not be familiar with. Some of these, certainly in this upcoming class, we're going to be covering these terms and helping you develop those different aspects of yourself because they're important for your developing this attitude of continuous learning, and they're important for you to break through to new heights. So the first step in this exercise is to write down in what way and in what areas you have stopped learning. The next step is to look at what areas in your life you are dissatisfied, apathetic, and resigned to playing it safe. Now, a lot of times what we do is we just get sick and tired, and so we just repeat the same thing, and we're trying to get through the day as opposed to living the day with gusto. So pick some areas that you're dissatisfied with and that you realize that now you're playing it safe. The third step is to pick one area to focus on that you're dissatisfied with. Pick one area so that we can start looking at it with a laser beam. Ask yourself why you have decided to play small in that area and give up your dreams. Step 4 is to think back to some of your past experiences in that area, and as the observer, and we'll get into what I mean by that, ask yourself the following question. What would I have to believe about myself to call into my awareness that experience that my participant went through? What lesson is it, that experience, trying to teach me? Write down all the possible answers that arise. Now, I don't want you to dismiss any out of hand. Just write them down. I don't want you to analyze or question your answer at this time. Just write them down. Okay, get them on a piece of paper. Now, let me step back and briefly kind of give you some overview of what I mean by the observer, and I also use the term participant. If we look at life as Shakespeare said, life is a stage which we play, and we're all basically actors. When we're on that stage and you're an actor, you often get tied up in the role that you're playing. If you're a good actor, you're going to assume that character and the emotions of that character, and you're actually going to maybe get so caught up in the story in being that person that you'll actually experience those same emotions and you'll react in that same way. You're acting on that stage through your own particular viewpoint, your own perspective. It may or may not be a reasonable one when you look at all the facts, but as the participant, you're always under your own viewpoint, in your own belief system, and so therefore you're responding in a certain way. Often, and whenever we talk about these past experiences, we're generally talking about negative experiences because these are something that we're dissatisfied with, that didn't turn out right. And so in this case, whenever you're in the participant role and you've been sucked in to the story and you forgot that you're just an actor participating in the story, you get pulled into the drama and your emotions start welling up inside. You often actually succumb to the negative emotions. These negative emotions are fear-based, and they often come through as signs of anger, sadness, or fear, being afraid to do something. And so they keep you small. Those are often default programs that you develop over the course of your life's experiences that you automatically default to and react to. What that does is that limits your ability to respond or be responsible, what I'm going to eventually call responsibility consciousness. And it moves you into victim consciousness. And at victim consciousness, you respond with this anger, sadness, or just fright. So that's the participant. They get sucked into the emotion and they lose the perspective of the big picture. They can't see another person's viewpoint. They only see theirs, and they argue for their rightness, not their happiness, their rightness. The observer is somebody that is maybe is someone in the audience that can look at the whole scene, can observe without the emotional attachment or the viewpoint, so that they have a broader perspective and they can rise above the emotion of that one person's viewpoint and analyze and get a more correct overview of what's happening. And so from that observer perspective, you're to ask that question: what would I have to believe about myself to call into my awareness that experience that I got sucked into as a participant and flipped into my story, and that actually prevented me from moving forward in the situation. So the next step, step 5, is for each of those answers, those reasons, those beliefs, write down what would be the opposite belief. So if I think that I was being picked on, it would be that, well, they weren't picking on me. That was my own misstatement. If I thought that they were basically saying that I'm not lovable, the belief would be I am lovable. So do that in step 5. Step 6, next as the participant, this is the one that gets the emotional juices going. It's those juices that drive us towards our goals. Imagine the opposite of the experience that you had in step 4. So instead of seeing the thing playing out negatively, you're going to see it play out positively, playing out the way that you would hope that it was, that would move you and the situation forward. And as the observer, ask yourself the following question: what would I have to believe about myself to have this imagined experience manifest in my life? You notice that this question is not what would I have to believe about somebody else or what would somebody else have to do. It's always about myself. It's my perspective. It's my world. What lesson would I have had to master to be able to get now these positive results? Write down all the possible answers as they arise within you. Don't dismiss any out of hand. Just write them down. I don't want you to analyze or question your answers at this time. It's just really to write them down. What we're really trying to do in this exercise is to develop an attitude of a conscious learner and to start getting some zest and interest back in life and to be proactive as opposed to reactive. So we're not really, in this case, there's additional steps in this exercise, but we're only doing this one part right now. But this is something that this next step is very important. And it's step 7. Ask yourself the what-if question. How would your life change if you started living that area of your life with gusto and with positive expectations? Otherwise, seeing yourself as actually having the results in step 6. What if you allowed yourself to achieve what you once thought you could not do? You see, that what-if question is very important because it's the what-ifs that give us the reasons why we wish to make changes in our life, why we want to move forward. And so the what-ifs become important. And in this class, we're going to be, not just talking about the why, the how, the what, but really the what if I did this? Because when those whys become so important, the hows become apparent. So when you embrace the process and the attitude of a continuous learner in your life, you allow yourself to achieve what you once thought you could not do. How does that change your life for the better? I would suggest that strength comes from not what you can do, but it comes from overcoming the things you once thought you could not do. Come to embrace the process of continuous learning, and you will achieve what you once thought you could not do. Fear will no longer dominate your life. Instead, joy and happiness will be yours.